Okay, so this is the May Irving Conservation Commission meeting. This is a meeting that's being recorded. If you would like to participate, the call-in function with just the phone number will only give you audio. But if you are on the web version, there is a raise your hand function. And raise your hand when you'd like to speak. I'm happy to unmute you at the will of the chair. And with that, David, I will let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. Oops. Yeah. We have the agenda posted and we're ready to call to order. And I see we have a full commission. Carrie, are you taking on the minutes once again, or what shall we do? Will you be doing that? Okay. Thank you so much for the last time. It was really excellent. Mariah, will you have at some point some residents or other people joining us?
So it does look like Jackie Boyden is here.
Yeah.
And I believe that those are all the residents that I see. And then I see that we have David Eskew and Matthew Kelly, who I assume are from Eversource.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we're going to be okay with those names, Carrie?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. A quick question just to figure out where Jackie would need to fit in. Is this something that is part of the RDA, or is this something that Jackie has as an item that we might be able to address really quickly so she doesn't have to hang out all night?
I believe she's here for the Eversource RDA, but Jackie, I'm going to unmute you. And if you'd like to just say if you have anything else you'd like to talk about, then you can. And you're self-muted, so I've unmuted you, but you need to, there you go.
I'm just here for the RDA.
Okay, Jackie, I just wanted to be sure unless you had something we could deal with up front, but we'll be getting into the discussion of the RDA in about 2 minutes. So thank you then. Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes of April 6th, 2021, and I'll wait for a second.
Second.
Very good, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I have one addition. That I think the there was a young man who works for the cats, and I don't remember his name. I'm not sure he.
I think that was Todd.
No, so Todd's her husband, that was someone who works with them. I also don't know his name, but I think you could just say Lisa Katz and guest, maybe?
Yeah, okay. Right, good enough. It was taking it all in, but he did not identify himself or.
They did introduce him, but I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
now.
okay, good. All right, that could be a very small addition there.
Right.
Okay, any other discussion about the minutes? Otherwise, all those in favor of accepting the minutes as they are with the slight addition of and guest, all those in favor? Aye, David Brule.
Aye, Mark Beitsley.
I Mike Schaefer.
Okay, good. So it is unanimous, and we'll move on. Continue the discussion of designating or developing a parking area at Poplar Mountain. I don't know if we have any guests weighing in here. Is Laura, Herbert, or Rob anywhere in the gallery?
David, excuse me, I think you skipped over the RDA. I don't know if that was
Oh my God, oh yes, I'm totally sorry. Yeah, I'm reading off your list. Sorry, okay, you're right, moving right along. 6:35, open the public hearing for the RDA filed by Eversource for work on transmission lines. So we're all ears. We'd like to hear from David and Matthew. If you can summarize that very quickly and or as long as you like, but then we will see if there are any commissioner questions. Okay, thank you. Take it away.
Absolutely. Good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. My name is Matt Kelly. I'm a senior wetland scientist at Epsilon Associates, and I'm here on behalf of Eversource. David Askew is also. David is a senior environmental scientist with Eversource. He's also part of the project team. We're here tonight to discuss the request for determination of applicability submitted to the town for the replacement of two existing structures within an existing utility right-of-way. The right-of-way is located essentially at the terminus of Poplar Mountain Road, between the terminus of the roadway and the Irving Northfield town line. The act of replacing the structures themselves is considered an exempt activity under the Wetland Protection Act. However, in order to replace the structures, two permanent gravel pads will be constructed at the base of the existing / proposed structure locations. So these pads will be graded and then lined with crushed stone and gravel to provide a safe and stable work platform for equipment to replace the structures. The structures will be replaced under live line conditions. Hence the size and the need for these work pad areas. The reason why we're here tonight is work will be conducted within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetland and one intermittent stream. So I just skipped to the plan set, which shows location of structure 36007 and 36006.
Matt, I'm going to interrupt for 1 second. If you ever want me to show a specific page, feel free to let me know and I can jump to it.
Okay, right now, Mariah, it's probably helpful. I believe it should be attachment C.
Do you know what PDF page it is?
1 second. It should be page 19 of 237. Or sorry, 17 of 237.
This one?
Exactly. Yep. So that shows the existing structure location, which will be replaced closest to the terminus of Poplar Mountain Road. There's a small bordering vegetated wetland there that you can see drains to an existing culvert beneath the right-of-way access road. So this work area will be a hybrid of construction mats, which will be placed in the wetland or partially in the wetland and the surrounding upland area. The placement of those construction mats is considered an exempt activity under the Wetland Protection Act. Adjacent to those construction mats, so that's the yellow shade that you can see. Those are the construction mats, and so the opaque looking gray color, that's the proposed gravel work pad that will be graded and constructed at the base of structure 36007. And then to the far right, exactly far right of that page is structure 36006, which will also be replaced. And once again, that gravel work pad will be graded and constructed. There's a small, to the north of it, there's a small center line of a ditch. It's our understanding that water course or that waterway is essentially associated with the existing right-of-way access road and would be non-jurisdictional. It's not connected to any BVW up gradient, but it does convey water, so Eversource is making an effort to preserve that area, and it will be matted as necessary during the construction of the access or of the gravel pad.
Mhm.
So the work essentially consists of buffer zone impacts. We're just a little over 11,000 square feet at structure 36006 and just a little over 9,000 square feet at structure 007. Sediment controls will be installed to set the perimeter of the work area prior to any soil disturbing activity. And upon the completion of work, disturbed soils will be graded, stabilized, and seeded as necessary. And as required, biodegradable erosion controls will be installed and left in place at the completion of work. So I guess just to conclude, we feel that the work will be conducted in a manner that will not alter an area subject to the protection under the Wetland Protection Act, and we are seeking a negative determination.
Mhm.
Are there any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. Mark or Mike, any questions? Carrie?
I'm looking at the picture here, the diagram, and I'm wondering where is the road from here? Is it to the right? Is it to the left? Old State Road. Where is it in reference to the?
So where the cursor is on the map sheet there, that's the terminus of Poplar Mountain Road.
That's the terminus of Poplar Mountain Road,
Correct.
which would put.
Mark, this isn't off of Old State Road, it's off of 63.
Oh, okay. I
Say that-
know now. I know where we are.
Mariah, I missed that. Off what road? Not
It's
Old
off of
State.
63.
Oh.
Route 63.
Now I know exactly where we are.
It's near Jackie's house.
I see. Oh, yeah. Okay. I was on the whole other side of town too. Yeah. Okay. Mhm. Couple of simple questions. So the dimensions of the gravel bed, so one of them totals 1,000 square feet?
So essentially the dimensions are roughly or approximately 150 feet by 120 feet. So 150 long by 120 wide. The gravel pad at structure 36007 is more of a polygon shape due to that wetland, due to the proximity of that wetland.
Excavation required? You have to dig down?
So grading will be required to level the area.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What was the total of both of the concrete bases you're putting in for square feet?
So for the gravel pads,
Yeah.
at structure 36006, we have roughly 11,284 square feet. And at structure 36007, we are at roughly 9,354 square feet. And that's area within the 100-foot buffer zone. So the buffer zone is shown on our plan set as the green line with the black dashes through it. Exactly.
Mhm.
You said there was an intermittent stream somewhere. And where were you talking about? Along the road over there, where your cursor is?
Yeah, so where the cursor currently is, that's essentially a ditch that runs along the existing right-of-way access road. That channel, it conveys water. However, it's not jurisdictional because there's no wetland up gradient or upstream where that ditch essentially begins to convey water. There, to the left, closer to structure 36007, there is an intermittent stream that leaves that small bordering vegetated wetland, and then it conveys, it flows to the existing culvert under the roadway, and then flows to the west from there, off right away.
You said that's a temporary wetland. It does dry out in the summer?
The intermittent stream, it would dry out in the
wetland area.
The wetland area, yeah, I believe it's vegetated, but essentially dry for most of the year. Seasonally wet.
So run this by me one more time. So you're going to the new work will involve grading and laying down a new gravel pad. Is that gravel meaning roughly and nothing, no adhesive, or is it just laying there, just a coating of gravel?
Yeah, it's crushed stone with gravel that will be rolled and tamped and to make a stable surface for equipment, especially the crane that's required for this type of structure replacement.
Yeah. Okay. And that pad will be permanent?
The pad is permanent. Ideally, it's left in place so it's there for future maintenance and emergency event.
Will you assume that it is permeable?
Yeah, it will not result in a source of a discharge. Water does not run off of these areas. This is a pretty typical standard work pad that Eversource constructs throughout Massachusetts. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I got another question, and that is where equipment being used in this, where is that going to access from, and and where will you be storing it or parking it, and any clearing or other disturbing that you expect to do because of the equipment that comes in?
So the equipment will access the site from Route 63 and then via Poplar Mountain Road. If it's being stored overnight, it would be stored outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So if you're looking at this map sheet, you can see that there are paved or gravel roadways in the right-of-way already. So those would be used for equipment storage. So
yeah, I've hiked up that road a bit. I know where you mean.
Yeah.
It might be timely to see if Jackie Boyden has any concerns, given it's near her property. Jackie, do you have anything to say?
Well, just a couple of things. Will the abutters be notified when the work is going to begin, and how long you anticipate the work to be? And will you be continuing the tree cutting that you stated that they were going to do 2 years ago that they haven't started yet?
So I'll start with schedule. This work is scheduled to take place from August through December of this year. There's no anticipated tree removal or tree clearing associated with this work. And it's my understanding David, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that abutters will not be notified as part of this work.
I'm searching my memory. Certainly.
Oh, I think he's talking to David Askew, but we can't
Oh,
hear.
good. Okay. Too many Davids here. Yeah.
No,
No.
we can't.
How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you will be notified. Abutters, direct abutters are notified. You may not receive notification because we own the property around the right of way. So you may not specifically, but direct abutters to the structures are notified as part of our regular process.
I'm a direct abutter.
I will talk to our outreach and make sure that you are directly notified and make sure you are on the list for notification. Again, the work is scheduled to start in August. That's the civil work to construct the work pads, and then the electrical work will take place later in October and November.
I had one other question, David Brule. It's regarding using Poplar Mountain Road to bring the rather large equipment up and then using the access road. It's always challenging when they do that. Do you, like, are they going to do it early in the morning, or how much equipment do you expect? Is it like a 1 or 2 day thing, or are they going to be here every day for 2 weeks? That sort of thing.
Yeah, like David Askew mentioned, so the construction of the gravel pad will occur in the summer of this year. I anticipate that work would occur over a week. Shouldn't be any longer than that to construct those 2 gravel work pads. And then the structure replacements themselves will take place later in the year, in the fall, October through December. And that work once again would occur over the length of a week. And then there's any type of restoration work, mat removal, soil, disturbed soil, seeding and mulching. That would be the final activity in this area, which would be completed in a day.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? So, Mariah, how do you see this happening with us remotely in terms of
We can do what we've done in the past, where if you want to fill out the response form, and then I can print it out at town hall and leave it in the foyer for everyone to sign.
yeah, okay. So
I had one comment,
Sure.
Mike Schaefer, about should we ask for restoration for the 20,000 square feet of pad? Some type of revegetation of, I don't know, native plants or pollinators?
I'd just like to mention that all impacts are located in the 100-foot buffer zone, which there's no performance standards under the Wetland Protection Act. So the area, the work can be completed and with minimal impacts to the buffer, and we do not anticipate any alteration of an area subject to the jurisdiction of the Wetland Protection Act.
I guess I'm confused. If it's all within 100 foot of a buffer zone, isn't it under our jurisdiction? Or
Yeah,
David, can you-
absolutely.
So-
Buffer zone is considered a jurisdictional area, but it's not considered a resource area.
and help me with this, because normally when you take out that much footage, we would look for some kind of restoration, and why is it not appropriate here?
Well, we feel like the work is not altering a resource area itself. It's buffer zone. It's land within 100 feet of a resource area. The work will include BMPs. We will establish sediment controls to prevent alteration of adjacent resource areas. And any disturbed areas beyond the footprint of these work pads will be restored following construction.
So my
So
sense,
just to,
go ahead.
I just to highlight the regulations, basically the commission is reviewing this to ensure that activities in the buffer do not impact the wetlands themselves directly. So that's why we request the negative determination. And that negative determination is basically a determination that the wetlands themselves will not be impacted. And that's typically the review that municipalities do under the Wetland Protection Act.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no direct performance requirement for those activities in the buffer.
Okay,
Just to
thank you,
highlight
David.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other further comments? Do you have, Mariah, the determination of applicability in form in front of you somewhere? Or just to review with the commissioners, the negative options?
You mean the form that you would fill out in response to
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
I don't have it up, but I can pull it up.
Yeah, I was about to say, if we are to vote on this, we should be sure of which box we're going to check.
I think it would be the negative with conditions of corrosion control, which they, and any other that they're gonna do.
I'm trying to recall whether it says, well, we'll see in a second, I suppose. Yeah. Work will be within a buffer zone, but will not alter. So determination, can you find the negative determination?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, okay. So we're being requested to consider a negative. So the area described is not an area subject to protection under the Act or the buffer zone. The work described in the request is within an area subject to protection.
Number 3, David, I think.
But will not remove, fill, or dredge. And number 3, within the buffer zone as defined, but will not alter, which is kind of what my memory told me. So it looks like number 3 is what we're going for. Is that what everybody concurs? Mark and Michael, Carrie, you okay with that?
I think so. Yeah, with the erosion control conditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so all those in favor of finding a negative determination and checking box 3 with the typical conditions of sediment control, etc. All those in favor of that, please say aye. David Brule, aye.
Carrie Bird, aye.
Mark Blatchley, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Okay, it is unanimous. Any other comments before we close out this public hearing? I hope
Just
Jackie
for the
had
just
questions answered. Yeah, go ahead, David.
just for the record, my name is spelled with an A for the minutes. It's Askew.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
SQ. All right. Okay, so very good. I think we have reached a closure on that.
Thank you.
Carrie will fill out the form, I guess, and we will sign it in the foyer ASAP. I hope everything okay with Eversource people. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the patience as we feel our way through this. We've got a brand new board in a lot of ways, other than me, and my memory is not always so good about all this. So appreciate you being here. Thank you for your participation and your explanations. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I don't have a clock in front of me, but we can note that the public meeting closed at
It's 7:01.
7:01. Great. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
You're right on time.
Yeah, great. What do you know? Now, something I almost jumped the gun over, but we're talking about continuing the discussion of designating and developing the parking area at Poplar Mountain. I requested in 5A the exact wording of the vote which Carrie provided us with in the minutes, which basically indicates that we had a vote that we agreed at the time on the dimensions of the parking lot. Since then, there has been further discussion and requests from Rob and from Laura and perhaps other people about reconsidering the size of the parking lot. So personally, I don't have a big problem with revisiting a vote, but maybe now is the time to hear what Rob and Laura have to say about the size, which was voted on as 60 feet by 100 feet. So unless Michael or Mark or Carrie have any objections, I'd like to hear from Rob and Laura. You okay?
I have also concerns with the size.
Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so let's get into it. I think that's the primary discussion tonight is this going to be overbuilt? So we're all ears.
Oh wait, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Now we
Okay.
can.
I was gonna let Rob go first, but nice to see you guys. And I think yeah, I'll let Rob talk. But I guess I'm just wondering how this number 100 by 60 came about in the first place. I understand you want to make sure there's ample access, but you know, and also planning for future use, but you know, this isn't really a heavily used area. And you know, I just want to make sure that we're taking into consideration what the goals for the management of the property are. Obviously, it's been a couple of years, 2 or 3 years since I've been on the commission myself, but you know, I've spent a lot of time on this project and developing the management plan. And when we did that, David, as you probably remember, the main goal was, you know, preserving wildlife habitat. And then, you know, so my concerns are, you know, inviting heavy usage and what the impacts of that would be. I'm not saying that, you know, if you guys decide you want to revisit the management plan and, you know, write something new, and that's a whole other conversation. But, you know, I just would be cautious before I just, you know, made a decision to build a parking lot that big without considering what impacts there might be. And also, you know, Rob and I we live down the road, we're constantly picking up trash. I mean, that's a concern. That's a concern that we have. It's like, okay, if we're having, I can't remember how big the proposed lot was, 12 cars or something like that. But I am concerned about the trash being an issue. We're the ones out there every day picking it up, and obviously that's our choice to do, but it is an issue. So those are my primary concerns. I will let Rob add to that.
I think I'm on audio now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Great. So, I reached out to a bunch of different local trail groups: AMC, FERCOG, Mass Audubon, Nature Conservancy, trustees, Berkshire National Resources Council, New York State Rail Trail Planner, I know, Leverett, Town of Leverett, and I can summarize the feedback that I've gotten. So here are some of the highlights. It seems like this parking lot is over-engineered. Do they really anticipate the need for 18 cars? I've hiked a lot of places and rarely see that many cars. The Nature Conservancy has put in 2 parking areas during my time, and both were small, 40 by 25 for 4 to 6 cars. FERCOG says, that was the Nature Conservancy. FERCOG says, best practice for trailhead parking lots is to size them according to the expected number of trail users. Do you have a count or estimate of expected trail users? I said, no, we don't. So she said, we can assist you with that if not. The FERCOG has trail counters that we can use to count the number of users on a particular section of the trail. If the town is amenable, we can do a trail user count this summer and come up with an average number of daily visitors. Requests for FERCOG traffic counts, including pedestrian and trail counts, must come from a town official. This can be a committee member, such as a Concom chair, or a town employee. So that definitely flagged it for me. I was like, that would be really helpful for us to actually know, rather than just have the highway department decide what our conservation land is going to look like. Let's see. Then BNRC said primary loop trail. They looked at the map and said primary loop trail is 1.5 miles long, 18 parking spots seems like a lot for that amount of actual trail. Somebody asked if we might be thinking about having tour buses in there for that size, but I do not think that's part of our thing that we want. Their advice is to fit your parking lot to the demand for parking.
Can I just, I'm so sorry. Jackie, I just noticed that your hand is raised and I wasn't sure if that was on purpose or not. And I realized it right now.
I wanted to weigh in after Rob is done about the
Okay.
parking and the planning for it.
Gotcha. I wasn't sure if it was left over from the Poplar map.
No,
or from
no.
Okay. Gotcha. Sorry, Rob, continue.
Okay. Then they asked, are you planning on having it plowed in winter? A lot of people said, look at what your normal is now and then add like a small percent, because you will probably make it more popular by having a trail. The size corresponds to the number of cars you're hoping to park. Are 18 cars regularly parked in the area? Where did that number come from? Audubon Society, they run high ledges, and high ledges, they saw like a massive spike this last year from people from New York City and Boston coming out. And he said, it's the push and pull of protecting land for both wildlife and human use. Generally, we try to limit large parking areas. Do you know why they're trying to put in such a big lot? We've seen a huge visitation spike from COVID, but only time will tell how long these increased numbers will continue. At high ledges, we are deciding to not expand our parking area until we give it more time to see how long increased numbers continue. Size of the trail system is also a question, and how many people it can comfortably accommodate at once. There isn't a simple answer, but if cutting trees is needed for the parking, I would say do all you can do to work to limit the number of trees that are needed to be removed. Someone else said absolute overkill, 18 sounds excessive. Says have planners do the plan, not the highway department. Have the highway department do the work. And you can always make it bigger, but you can't make it smaller. And then I checked on the pine tree with a forester. I checked the age of those pine trees out front, and 85 years to 125 years. So the biggest one, started growing in 1800s. So it's not something to take lightly, in my strong opinion. So that's kind of the big piece, I would say, and I have been talking a lot to these people, so happy to answer questions about any of that or hear any thoughts.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Laura. Comments from the commissioners?
I have a comment to make when you're all done too.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to, I went around and looked at a number of recreational hiking area, conservation areas in the area, and there were parking areas in state-owned land that was where there weren't constraints on the parking that were in this range of 60 by 100. But those are like over on the plains over there in Montague, where this really, in one case they were putting it underneath a power line, so it really wasn't any limit to how big they made it. But every other place, most of the time, they were significantly smaller than for 18 cars. The largest I could see would be 10 to 12, but most of them, on the other hand, are constrained by needing to have an access in the middle that was always open, property lines that were on it. So many of the conservation areas only had room for 4 cars or so. Now, the most I've heard is 6 cars parked along the road. And that's just an anecdotal note from others. As I've driven up and down the road on weekends, I have never seen cars parked there, but I've heard of hiking groups coming in, mostly meetup groups, using 4, 5, or 6 cars there. So my thought is that the 18 number is rather excessive. The only concern I have is for use by the school if they're going to bring a class over. But to me, that would mean they could bring a bus, turn it around, come in the other way, and they could just stop on the side of the road. So they were unloading directly into the parking area. So we could get away with significantly less than 18. We could get away with 12. We could get away with 10 or less in that area. So that comes from driving around a couple of times and looking for, where do you park if you're going to use a trailhead? And as I say, most of the time the trailheads are constrained by something else being in the way, or some landowner on the other side who has to have access all the time. So you can't, you can't expand a parking area. And 12 cars is even large for those cases.
Thank you. Other comments? Mariah, I think you were going to say something. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to be clear about something. And I know, Rob, someone had commented, don't let the highway department plan the parking area, let the planning department do it. And I want to be clear that the highway department went out and flagged this at the bequest of the Conservation Commission. And I say this in the kindest way possible, but they do not care about the size of this parking lot. They're happy to make it whatever size the Conservation Commission desires. So they're not pushing for any particular size. They just picked a size and went out and marked it. So they're happy to remark it at whatever size the Conservation Commission requests. So I just wanted to be clear that they're not trying to push for a larger parking area than the Conservation Commission wants.
I have a few things, only because I just listened to this again yesterday. So when they were coming up with the specifications, per our request, part of what they did is they compared this spot to the spot that's over at Farley Ledges. They also took into account the regulation size, for lack of a better word, of a typical parking spot and how much room was required in between the back end of like from one to the other, if cars are parked across, you know what I mean, like on either side, there has to be 18 feet. So I know that it wasn't just a number that was thrown out there, it was actually kind of thought about as far as size. And what they were also, one of the things that I heard during the conversation was part of it was anticipation of possible Farley overflow, especially if we are going to be connecting trails from Poplar Mountain to, you know, over by Farley. So those were some things that were mentioned during that meeting that I just wanted to bring back up again, you know, just to refresh your memory.
Thank you. Yeah, and I know, I just also want to be clear that I don't think anyone is expecting that this parking lot will be as busy as the Farley Ledges, and I don't think it should be. This land should not have that situation here. I do think that, you know, like you said, Carrie, when Glenn was laying this out, he had nothing to go off of in terms of size, so he went off of what the Farley Ledges has. So I personally think that it needs to be that big. No, I think that was a starting point. So I just want to be clear that I don't think anyone is pushing that it needs to be this size. I think that it was a starting place to have the conversation of how big it should be, and which is why we're having this conversation.
Okay.
Can I talk yet, David? This is Jackie.
Yes, go right ahead, Jackie. Yeah.
So a couple of things. I understand that you're concerned about the size of the parking lot and the current use, but you need to remember that we haven't done very much promoting of this particular conservation area. And part of the deal when the town bought it many years ago from the Guinnesses was that it would be promoted for recreational purposes, and you laid out the trail. So I expect that once you start promoting it, now that you have the trails laid out, that it will increase in use. We can't have people parking along the edge of Old State Road. It's a state road and not ours, and they shouldn't be parking anyways. There's the whole liability issue. So even if you don't settle on 18, I think parking spaces, and Carrie's right, there's certain, you have to go by certain size. You have to have a certain size per parking spot. It's a state regulation. I also don't want you to make it too small that immediately after we spend this money and have this done, that we find out that we have all this overflow. I think that people are discovering Irving and the beauty that we have. I think COVID contributed to that, and people want to get outdoors more. I just see the use happening. I see more and more people using it in the future once we promote it and that it's there, because there hasn't been very much with that. As far as the trash is concerned, I mean, maybe that can be addressed with putting trash cans up there so that you're not picking the trash up along the road. I mean, I think that's a separate issue. The Farley Ledges it has exploded. So now there's this unofficial overflow happening and they're crossing Route 2. I do think that some of the people will find this parking area, park in that parking area and hoof it down to Farley Ledges. I just think, or they're going to use the back trails to do it. I just think that's what's going to happen. Or they're going to park, discover it, and realize it's a great hiking trail and want to explore it on its own. So that's all. I just wanted you to find a happy medium between too small and developing it and not too big. So maybe something like 10 parking spots or 12 parking spots instead of 18 would be reasonable. The traffic count or the hiker count is a great idea, Rob. The problem is that we haven't done a lot of promoting of it. So would it be an accurate count? It might give us a baseline. Some people have discovered it. Maybe it's worth taking a count now and then seeing how much it's increased from maybe historical counts. So that's all I had to say.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Those are very pertinent. So Yes, Mark.
Several things I'd like to say. Number one is, if we say make it too small, we make it say 8 cars, and we decide that, oh wow, there's always an extra car parked outside, it could be expanded relatively easily. You know, there's not a lot of difficulty.
I just want to, in response to that, I think it was brought up at the last meeting, but once you get funding for this parking area, you have to apply for more funding to expand it. And the town is unlikely a couple years after you install something to want to expand it.
Well, in terms of the area itself, that's all I'm talking about, is the area itself is not, you know, is not constrained in any way. The second thing is that I don't think it's going to get used as an overflow for the climbing area. It's a heck of a hike to the climbing area, and I'm not sure that you'd get a lot of climbing in if you parked there and hoofed it, specifically because right now there aren't good connecting trails. And looking at the property lines, I think it'd take a lot of work for us to get the right to do connecting trails that you know, meet anybody's needs. They have need for access to emergency evacuation. They don't have needs to expand in our way, although I would like it if there was a long distance connection, but that's you know, I don't think it's going to be used to go climbing from. It's a lot easier to go across the river and, you know, pay your $5 and shuttle over with a bunch of friends, or go into town and use the bus, which I assume is working now. I'm not too concerned about if it's an off-street parking area, with just the signs that tend to get put up in areas like this. I don't think we're going to find too much in the way of dumping going on there. You know, there's trash along the road that people throw out the window, but that's not exactly the same thing. There's a lot of places in town that I've explored where, you know, you could drive in and throw stuff, but I haven't seen a lot of new trash in places like that. A lot of that's old stuff that's been dumped years ago. In fact, I know some of them that it doesn't seem like anybody's going in there for any purpose. So anyway, those are my thoughts about it. I'm looking to see if we can get it resized to 10 cars and you know, use the existing spot there and move forward.
If I can jump in, I think we're reaching a logical convergence right now that we very likely in meeting in that site last month, in our willingness to get things decided, we perhaps jumped the gun. One of the things, I mean, I'm hearing from all parties that it would make sense to and would not be a problem for the highway department to just, you know, revisit the size. And what I'm hearing from Robin and Laura and Mark loud and clear is that what I would not want to do is just go once again into another size and then say, well, what are we basing it on? Jackie's point and Glenn's point, of course, was that there are regulations determining the size of the parking lots. Even that feels like it was really big. But what I'm thinking is to introduce at some point shortly a vote to rescind the last vote and to study this a little bit more before choosing another size tonight. I think we really have to look carefully at it. We got a lot of input from Rob in his inquiring around the area, and Laura's absolutely right. Back in those days when we envisioned and wrote up a management plan, it was essentially a wildlife refuge area with a hiking trail. that was going to be non-intrusive on the wildlife. So we have to keep all of those things in mind, but you can see where I'm going. I'm personally thinking that we have to do two steps. One is to vote to rescind the 60 by 100 foot parking lot, but we have to put a little bit more thought and research into it as to do we want to wait a year and trying to count the likely visitors, or do we want to take an educated guess that we can't go back on again? Those are the options after a vote to revisit our original vote from last month. So that's what I think where we're at. A lot of us have more opinion, I suppose, but I think we've heard all the arguments. Unless I don't mean to cut anybody off, but at the same time, I think we know where we're going, which is maybe to think more closely and longly at this size of the parking lot. Am I summarizing this okay for everybody, or do you have any other comments?
Or internet.
Pardon?
David, can you hear me? I have a
Yes.
poor internet connection.
Yeah, now we can. Yeah.
I don't want to push this off another year. I think it should be 60 wide, like, because you need to have two cars back to back and a place to back out. And I think Mark had suggested like 50 feet, 60 by 50 or 60 by 60. That would be about 12 cars, I believe. I don't see that we need to push this out a year to make that decision.
No. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I was just saying that if we were going to do any kind of, like FERCog was suggesting, any kind of semi-scientific approach, we'd have to count the visitors.
David, sorry to interrupt. What they suggested was to do summer of visitors, because summer is the highest use, and then you've got that, and then you can multiply it by 125% if you think it's going to go up by a quarter, or 150% if you think more people would come because there's a new trailhead or something like that. So it would, you could have a decision by September, basically. After you have data. To me, what's an informed decision without data?
I just want to also say that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I'm just going to piggyback on Rob because he's with me. Seriously, I mean, I get that we're all eager to make this happen. I feel like nobody has been more eager than I have been over the years to get people out at this trail, and kind of been a very passionate thing for me. But on the other hand, I feel like it's taken this long, to get to where we are, that I don't want to just rush this piece. I want to just make sure that we're being really thoughtful about it. And no, I don't think it needs to be another year before we just make a decision about a parking lot. But I just feel like it really bears just considering all the angles.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, Mark.
I just feel very strongly, like, having looked around the other areas that you can use for hiking, that if we put in a 10 car parking lot and just got it started and done, that we wouldn't be anywhere near on the large size. The state ones are big enough for 18 cars, but the trailheads elsewhere are 4 and 6 and such. Mm-hmm. And if we just made a 10 car parking lot in there and just, made it happen, that's what I would like to do. I'd just like to make a motion to have it happen at that level.
Okay. You're making a motion.
Well, actually, we have to wait to reconsider the previous motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah. So what if we have them come in and resurvey to accommodate for I would say 10 cars is probably fine too. I've been at a ton of different parking areas in Dayton. I think I've only been at like maybe 2 that have actually been more than 12 cars. Mm-hmm. They're on average between 8 and 10.
Okay.
And that's only at some of the larger conservation areas even.
Okay.
So, but in order to get an accurate size, we would have to have them come out and resurvey
Okay.
according to the guidelines.
Great. So I'm going to make a motion this time, first of all, to rescind the vote that we made last month. Is there a second out there?
Second.
Excellent, thank you. So any further discussion about rescinding the vote before we make a second motion of actionable points? All those in favor of rescinding the vote of the 60 by 90 parking lot or 60 by 100 parking lot, please say aye. David Rule, aye.
Carrie Berg, aye.
Mark Blatchley, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Okay, thank you. So it is unanimous. I put it bluntly, I think we goofed. I think we were in too much of a rush, didn't give it enough thought. Now, the second thing is for us to look at, I guess, logically, and this is not yet a motion, but logically, we should ask Glenn and the highway department to remeasure a smaller size, or at least, well, we got to figure out what the requirements are, what the regulation is for X number of cars. I mean, I'm hearing,
9
Carrie,
feet
Mark,
per car.
9
9
feet
feet
per,
wide. I think
okay.
if you want parking on two sides, you're gonna have to stay with the
For
60.
10 cars.
Yeah.
But then it's 9 per car. So for 60 by 60, you would fit a dozen cars.
60 by
60.
Well,
60
even
square.
to allow for a driveway. So
Right,
that's
you would
why
probably have a
we did
little.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
I think
and
I understood, but I'm not sure. Mariah, you said 60 by 60 square.
Right. So like, 6 cars, it would be 9 by 6, it'd be 54 plus 6 feet, rounding it up to 60.
Okay,
Like, if you're trying to talk, I don't think we can hear you.
No, Mike.
Rob.
Mike.
Oh, great,
trying to
thanks.
talk.
So what I heard from all the different people is like, it's fine to have the highway department do things. And I don't think Mariah, like anybody thought the highway department was being nefarious about it. It's just like, if they don't have direction, they're just going to go, they don't have any experience with conservation land, and they're just going to go do it. And so this would be the same thing. A number of the different planners said, like, if you give me overheads or something, I can size something for you for 6 cars, 8 cars, and 10 cars. You can see what it's going to be laid out, and then you can decide from there. So, like, planners are really good at finding like the exact minimum disturbance, if you will. So FERCog was willing to do that. My friend who's trail plan, runs the New York Rail Trail Associate plan. He said he'd be willing to take a crack at it. Another one, I can't remember who in here. I talked to so many different people, and we have so much expertise for free. Why not have the planners take a look at it too? And I also really think, like, whether we take the trail count into consideration, it'd be awesome to take up FERCog on their offer for a free trail count, because that would just be helpful to know no matter what.
Mark.
We had in the discussion when we were on site about what we would have to do, or rather what we would do with that site if we made it smaller. There was a discussion which ends could be easily moved. I think that happened while we were there. Where the flags were, and which way you could go or not easily. And so I don't have a lot of problem with it's not a complex area, and I don't have a lot of problem with just asking them to flag out an area for us. We have to go through more steps. We have to write a proposal to get money for the rest of the work that would be done in terms of graveling and some of the clearing. So, setting a size, getting it flagged, and saying we're going to move forward, it seems pretty straightforward to get everything happening. If we wait longer figuring how things go, it just seems to me we're going to end up not having it happen for a longer period of time than we want. I also think right now is actually peak use. People are coming out from the cities to use facilities and places. Once we get later on, it's going to ease. There's already changes happening with people going back to work and other conditions easing. Whether it's the use of a dog park or whether it's, other outdoor activities, people are making changes in their habits already. So I'm not sure whether we would have an accurate count of use. Again, the question is if we're trying and publicize some of the additional of this as one of the uses in the town, that's going to change the usage of it too. I'm looking at what's around us. I'm not concerned so much about what's ideal, this, that, or the other, because it obviously is not, trailheads are not, they seem to be put in with many different dimensions for many different reasons. From the huge ones that I see over underneath the power lines and where they don't care. Doesn't matter. Just put some boundaries up and gravel that section, and you could put 24 cars in there, to places where there was a landowner in this side and a landowner of that side, and there needed to be a right of way in the middle. And if you can't put, and you could put 4 cars in there and that's it. So it's, I just don't, it looks to me like it's a unique place that needs more unique, we need to fit our needs there.
Laura?
So I would say,
I
need to pick a
don't
number.
know where you guys are going to go with this.
Start
If,
on
I'm sorry, are you done?
2.
Okay. If you're going to size a new lot or what, but I just wanted to say, I don't have, none of us has like a magic number, obviously, for the amount of cars, but there's some numbers being thrown out. I just wanted to just add my 2 cents that, I think 10 is more than enough for this lot. I was just out at a parking area out towards the Berkshires, and it was a 10-car lot, and I'm looking at this lot thinking like, wow, this is a pretty big lot actually. And I really could not, given the use that we're having, even like future use, I really cannot envision, and the size of this property, it's not like, it'd be one thing if it was hundreds of acres, with miles and miles of trails, but we're talking about a relatively small property. So that was just my 2 cents that I felt like I would be remiss if I didn't just
Sure.
throw that in.
That's good.
I agree with 10.
Go ahead. I'm just going to summarize too quickly. I agree. I think that what we're trying to hash out now is who is going to do the ground plan. Rob, what I heard from Rob was that FERCog will do a design for free. And
that's what they offered. One of the person, yeah, sorry, but yeah, that's what they offered.
Rob, who did you speak with? Do you know?
Just have it under FERCog.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get it to you, Mariah, if you want.
Okay. Oftentimes, if it's something a little bit more involved, they will charge the town, and if it's not free for the counting, that might be free. I also don't know. I would have to just ask. Sometimes when it comes to like trail counting and traffic counting, like they'll only give us a certain amount per year, and Brian may already have a plan for what that, like we usually plan out ahead of time, like what streets are getting the traffic count and stuff. I don't think we've ever done a trail count, so maybe that's separate. I'm not really sure, but that's one thing to just consider, is that if we've already like told residents that we're going to do a traffic count on their street, say, we probably won't pull that out in order to do the trail count. So I'm not really sure how it will work, but we could definitely look more into it.
so the point we're still at is that we've rescinded the vote about the 60 by 100. And now we're trying to sort out what the next step will be. And people have opinions. opinions about the size and opinions about, well, about the size exactly and where that's going to be. So we have to come up with something in the next couple of minutes to figure out how we want to proceed. That's the way I see it. I think the arguments are there. Everybody, I've heard everybody over and over. So you want to just, if you've got a new statement, that's good. But
This is
how
Mike.
to move
I'd
forward?
like to hear Mark's proposal again to vote on it.
I'd like to make a motion. Can I, David?
You can do it, right? Go ahead.
I want to make a motion that we ask the town highway department to come in and flag out a parking area based on the general site already agreed on for 10 cars, and that we continue to move forward with the other steps that were needed to bring this forward. There was discussion of tree felling, and well, there was additional discussion there at that meeting, and that I didn't hear that in the original motion, but I'm saying have them flag a 10-car lot, and then proceed on that.
Getting money.
Additional steps that are needed.
I'll second the motion.
Second, okay. Discussion on the motion. So Mark is saying, let's have the highway department flag out 10-car parking lot.
So what would be the next steps from that? Like, are you guys saying like, okay, it is now going to be a 10-car lot, or are you just saying like it's going to be flagged and then there'll be more, you guys will assess it at that point? I'm just unclear about that.
Yeah. Exactly my sentiments.
We have to go.
Personally, I would like to take it step by step, because we need actually to look at the trees before we drop those big old trees. We have to figure out what the liability is about that. So we can't just green light things going forward. What we're going to have to do between now and the next meeting is just request that the highway department, if Mark's motion carries, that the highway department lay out a new 10-car parking lot. Then we have to see it. And then we're going to have to take another vote step by step, because to Rob's point, those big old 85-year-old trees, it would be a shame just to drop them. On the other hand, we've got to be careful about liability, but I think we got to do this step by step. That's what I'm hearing. That's my comment on the motion. So Mark, I hope I didn't cut you off, but go ahead. The discussion is still open.
I heard Mike trying to talk.
Okay, good. I can't see Mike, so I can only hear his voice. So
Yeah,
sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, someone asked what the next steps were we have to do after, this, we have to get money to approve, to fund the, it was $40,000 for the original, I think. And until we have that, we can't really go forward with it anyhow.
Right.
So,
Right.
Well,
but we need to lay it out.
Well, do we need to lay that out, or do we need to see what that looks like in order to decide whether it's a 6-car lot, an 8-car lot, or a 10-car lot? Or are we just arbitrarily saying it's a 10-car lot now?
I still would like to have them lay out a 10-car lot. I've seen 10 cars by the road there. I've hiked with groups. A lot of times there's 8 to 10 cars in a group right now during COVID. So I have no issue with a 10-car lot for that area.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, would
But
you?
that's my question, is is this motion, just so I know, is this a motion to just say we are locked into 10 cars now? We're just randomly saying 10?
This motion is to have the highway department flag out a 10-car lot. That's all.
Okay, so you're
It's not set in stone.
Are you retracting the end of, because at the end of the motion, you said to move forward with tree clearing. So do you want the motion?
We
to
move forward after that, we'll take whatever steps that we have to take, but those are separate steps that have to be voted on separately.
Right. Yeah.
We
Okay,
can't-
so the motion is just to lay out the lot.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, good. So, Carrie, is that okay? I know it's not totally Robert's rules because we have to have normally a vote on an amendment to shorten Mark's motion. I don't think we have to go down that road necessarily, but I think during this discussion period, we're all pretty much in agreement. And again, this is just to help us envision what a 10-car lot looks like. Sounds like a reasonable, this is still the discussion part. It sounds like a reasonable compromise from coming down from 18. For my vote, I can be talked out of it, Rob, but I think that 10-car lot would fit a lot of people's preferences at this stage without having any kind of a scientific trail count or anything like that. But Michael's basic witnessing of at least 10 cars parked along that road at one point, anecdotal, it still seems like it's probably valid. So still in discussion mode. We do have a motion to have the highway department lay out a 10-car lot. Any other points to be made? Mark, go ahead.
Just in favor of doing it at this point and doing it to this degree would allow us to see whether, okay, if we shifted it this way a little bit or shifted it that way a little bit, it would save these trees. Or there's no way to save this or that, and we want it saved, so we really need to shrink it again. But by getting this number, which seems slightly larger than most trailheads, to be a starting point that'll give us a reality check of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a concrete way of seeing what that all means. I would suggest again during this discussion period that we probably could ask the highway department to do that in the next 2 weeks, and that we could post a quick site visit meeting for 2 weeks from now to have a look to see what that looks like. So we don't have to wait months to months to months, but I think we don't want to rush into it, but at the same time, we don't want it to take until our decision, at least until September or October. So that might be worth considering, having it done in a site visit in 2 weeks. So the motion is out there and seconded, and we're still discussing. Are there any other comments one way or the other? This is just. Whoops, the voice is coming. Whose voice is that? Oh, Carrie. Okay.
Sorry,
I couldn't.
I just want to get this right. So we have the motion to have the lot reflagged by the highway department based on the 10 cars. Am I also adding into the motion the adding in that we need to schedule a site visit as well?
No.
That doesn't need to be there. Okay.
No, we don't need to make a motion for that. We just kind of have to agree, in my opinion.
Okay.
Michael, okay over there, wherever you are?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, Michael, good. So let's just vote on the motion to have the highway department within the next 10 to 12 days just flag out 10-car size so that we can go look at it. Now, that's not locking it in. It's just saying we'd like to see what it looks like. Can you please flag that for us? And we will make that part of the minutes. So any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of Mark's motion, David Brule, aye.
Mary Bird, aye.
Mark Blatchley, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Thank you. Okay, the motion carries. So that's the next thing we will do. If Mariah, can you contact Glenn and see if they can just pace off a 10 by 10? And we'll see what that looks like. Another step for another time will be, as Mark was suggesting, and all of us were hoping and thinking, is looking at what trees along the line of the parking lot near the road, what's their fate? So, but that's another discussion for another time once we see how we can sort this out. Okay. Anything else? Okay, good. So the parking lot, at least the next step is laid out. Yep, the vote's done, but go
With the
ahead.
parking lot, David, two things, I think, maintenance, we need to make, I mean, the trash pickup and the plowing in the winter, those need to be included in the cost.
Yeah, at a certain point when we are actually going to start, when we settled on the size and what happens to the trees and all that, that has to be blended in for sure. Okay, I'm going to move on to C, which is a very quick piece of cake. Review options by Ward Smith. I went to Ward. You all saw his report. I think he did in terms of wetlands. So it's an isolated wetland. We definitely would have to file with ourselves, and I don't know if we'll, give ourselves a hard time about a request for determination, but we should do that for paperwork when the time is right. So. That was his opinion. Did everybody get a chance to see that, or did he just send it to me? I think Mark saw it, yes, and I think Michael saw it. So good.
Yeah,
I did not.
I think he said a negative it would be the same thing we did today, a negative determination with the erosion control.
Right. And so just for the record, I did not go into the deep water and call DEP to ask their opinion. We will see what happens down the line about that, but I was satisfied with Ward's discussion. Okay, we did a D, and we probably can talk about rapidly the proposal to ask Highway Department to do that in the next 10 to 15 days so that we can get out there middle of May. So maybe we'll just, if you all agree that a site visit would be and a discussion solely on the layout, the new layout, with no decisions necessarily taken, but we will post that if Mariah can confirm that Glenn can lay it out a little bit. So does everybody feel okay with that? We'll shoot for, we'll get back via email about the date that we will just meet briefly out there at the site to have a look at what the Highway Department has recently flagged. Any questions about that part? Okay, done. Thank you. Anything else regarding Poplar Mountain? Yes, Rob.
Conservation restriction?
Oh.
There isn't one. It'd be conservation restriction. It'd be wonderful if there was one. It's something we've all have said and wanted for over a decade, and it doesn't exist. It'd be great if it did.
Yeah, okay, good point. Way back, just for the record, way back, I had just been at the time through the process, put a conservation restriction on my own land. I proposed that to the town manager and to whoever helped us, probably Mount Grace, and they said, oh, well, there's no need to do that because it's this particular program is backed by the state legislature and all of that. But I agree with Rob. It's probably a good idea to do that. And we would need since we own it, we can't own the restriction in that regard. It has to be a separate entity, possibly Mount Grace. But we should discuss that. I think that's a great point. It's an additional level of protection. So,
That's great.
question about that? No? Okay, Mike?
What's the next step?
No.
How do we do that?
Basically, just call Mount Grace. I was sorry, I didn't mean to just totally jump in. I was not following protocol.
No,
I
go ahead.
apologize.
Yeah. I was looking
But
for
I
who
did
was
have a
talking.
discussion with Mount Grace about it, just because there was a little confusion about whether or not we did have a CR or not. And the person I spoke with there, I can forward. If I didn't forward you the email already, I can do that. Just the person there said that they would be more than happy to talk to you guys about that.
Yeah. Is that Sarah Wells?
You could call Sarah,
Kim
but
Lynn
I think the person
Grace.
was Kim Lynn. I don't remember the
Oh,
last
yes,
name.
right. Okay. She's an AmeriCorps
She's
worker.
leaving.
Yeah.
Kim Lynn is leaving Mount Grace.
Okay, well, there's plenty of other
Kim
people there
Lynn.
that
Oh,
could help.
yeah. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk
She's leaving.
about that. If it's Mount Grace that does that, that will be good, but there are costs involved. And
Right.
so Laura and Rob, you may have somewhere the original paperwork for this. It would be good for all of us to remember under what state program the land has been preserved, because it is under a lot of protection, but I don't recall. It might be in the file cabinet somewhere going back 15
I
years, 10
remember
years.
that the grant is called self-help. I don't know what the accompanying
Yeah.
paperwork would be.
Yeah.
And Mount Grace did also send a copy of the deed for the upper parcel, which I'm sure you guys have in your file cabinet as well. And there was some language in that regarding
Yeah.
conservation.
Yeah.
I believe it's the self-help program that has it's not what it's called. It's not, I don't know if it's a deed restriction or what it is, but I believe it's the self-help program that you're talking about, Dave, with the legislation that requires that it be used for conservation or recreation.
Yeah.
And my
So
understanding from Brian is that it does provide protection, but you can add the CR in case someone, I don't know, in case the Senate ever overturned that legislation or something, you would have that additional protection.
Yeah, right. Good. Okay, thank you then. I'm going to, unless people are heavily interested in number 6, I can give you a quick summary. I met along with Mariah as a great support person. I met with the Board of Selectmen, and they have voted to opt out of the mosquito spraying program, mandatory state program, which is really a huge relief to me and to all of us, I can tell. Rob and Laura, I contacted early on, and it does require a number of things that the town join a mosquito control district, but I think that, and Brian made sure that we were able to do that, and the application was filled out to the state to opt out. So it is now the Board of Selectmen, agreed, Board of Health agreed, so we will file to opt out. It doesn't mean that there will be no mosquito control ever. It just means that the state will not be flying over our heads or driving down the highways, our streets, bombing the vegetation along the road. So we are joining Montague and Wendell and a number of other people. A lot of Concom people weighed in on the 3-hour discussion 2 days ago, and we're pretty basically controlled outrage. So, the state is getting an earful, and every time there was some kind of a statement or question, it was always, oh, we'll have to get back to you on that. So I think
So David, I just wanted to clarify that because I know that you
I know. I'm
the Board of Selectmen meeting, and it was a listening session, and as a person who holds a lot of public meetings, their intention was not to answer questions. It was to do exactly what they did. So I hear the gripe, but I also just want to say that their response was because they were probably not able to answer questions in the meeting.
Good. You're right on that. I guess I was getting ahead of myself. My sense is that there is going to be a task force to study this whole question, and that will be a 2-year thing. There was no spraying last year. There were no cases of encephalitis that needed to be controlled. So let's hope that the same goes for this year. Good. Mariah, can you fill us in on number 7, the Pan Am spraying rights of the way?
Question? Could I ask
number
one
6.
question on the,
Sure.
on 6? Yes.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're not going to spray on Route 2? Do they have control of Route 2 or do we have control over that?
It's jurisdictional by town. So the like aerial and van spraying, my understanding, which I'm by no means an expert, but I did do a little bit of research this last week, is that it goes by town. So they would not be able to spray over Route 2 because it's in Irving, like the section of Route 2 in Irving.
Thanks. Okay. Can we move on to number 7?
Okay.
Pan Am spraying rights of way. Do you have any
But
news,
So
Mariah?
I don't really know anything else about this other than what you have. I've forwarded you. I think Carrie pointed out, I don't think I had actually forwarded you the applications that just before this meeting, but their public hearing will be scheduled for the next month because
Okay.
the advertising deadline. So I will run the legal ads for next month's meeting, for the first Tuesday of next month, if that's when you're planning on having your next regular meeting.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Be able to have their hearings then.
Yeah. So just a historical point for people who are new. This is the Pan Am and the other railroads have been getting in touch with the Concom for the last 20 years. And typically we do not have a hearing. They typically do not even file an RDA. We were satisfied with the proposal and the scope of work. And so we never really challenged their spraying. It's pretty heavily regulated. It's quite possible that this composition of the Irving Concom may wish to explore deeper, but because the filings did not reach us in time to be posted, we just had to flag it off and tell them next time. So, okay, there's not much other news there.
For me, David, when they get close to the Millers River, what do they do? What's the deal? Do you know with spraying?
No, I don't know.
So I sent you all the RDA, so I would go through and look through it before the next meeting, and it'll probably answer a lot of the questions that you'll have.
Yeah. Okay.
I do know, like David said, that is very heavily regulated. I don't know what they are or are not allowed to do. So you can ask them and they'll probably be able to tell you, but
Sure.
it is like, my understanding is that they're spraying like a Roundup. So I understand being cautious about it.
One of the things that had come up multiple years ago, and I think it was resolved, but they often wanted to know if we knew of any wells in the vicinity of the spray zone. So that might be something we want to revisit also. But we'll check out what the RDA was that Mariah forwarded, and we can have plenty of questions for the man the next time. Good. Any other topics not anticipated, Mariah?
I had 2 quick things. So the first thing is I need preferably a motion, if not just an email from David, saying that you support Morningstar being appointed to the Conservation Commission. I believe you all saw an email that she sent saying that she is interested in the open position that Beth Basler is leaving. And the Board of Selectmen will ask if it's in support, if the Conservation Commission is in support of that. So I would just ask for a motion to support that.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Morningstar Chenvin to become a Conservation Commission, to a commissioner to fill the vacant post. A second?
I'll second.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Any discussion about Morningstar joining the commission?
Second.
None? Okay, very good. And I think she will probably want to continue to be the outreach person to the Irving Elementary School. But in the meantime, Mariah, you can, when we vote, you can assume and that it's okay with us, okay? So all those in favor of nominating Morningstar for the post of Conservation Commissioner, please say aye. David Brule, aye.
Karen Burke, aye.
Thank you. Mark Blatchley,
Blatchley, aye.
Aye, yeah. And
Mike Schaefer, aye.
okay, so it is unanimous, and you can pass that on, okay, Mariah?
Thank you. And then the last thing I just wanted to quickly update you on was I know that Rinky Black, when she had sent the email about the mosquitoes, she had also mentioned the pollinator thing, and I know, David, you had responded to that. I just wanted to explain a little. So the FERCog pollinator grant that they got, they did pick only, I think it was like 5 towns that they're working with on that specific grant. But my understanding is that once that, either simultaneously or once that is completed, they're willing to start working with other towns. And that was actually, we receive funding from FERCog every year to do, just assist us with different projects, and we apply for different assistance, and pollinators were on that list this year. So I understand that they're working with other towns on this project. So I'm going to go to a webinar either next week or the week after about this, about the regional pollinator plan. So I'm staying informed on that, and I'll keep you all in the loop. And I suggest that if you see other info sessions or webinars, that you attend them as well. The other thing is that Brian and I are currently talking with Eversource, probably National Grid, MassDOT, and several other landowners in the select board about potentially phasing out the mowing of certain areas of town that are along roadways or, areas that aren't really used, and turning those into native wildflower areas rather than mowed grass. So that will be a work in progress, but we're hoping that all of the parties involved will be amenable to us trying that. It'll be an experiment. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well. I know that there's a place in Amherst that we can get the native wildflower mix, and they actually have like a roadside mix that is a mix of grasses and flowers that do well in salty and sandy conditions. So alongside, you all doing your work at the elementary school, we're working on that. I'm working with Dan Hammock, who is currently on several boards and commissions. He's also very interested in plantings around town. So there's a lot of this stuff going on behind the scenes. So if anyone's interested in that, I'm happy to talk to you. Carrie, I know that you offered to be involved. So I can definitely keep you in the loop if there's anything we need help with.
Yeah, and I did sign up for that workshop. What is it, on the 20th, I think it is?
I think so.
Yeah, and there is another place that you can check in Whately. I started doing a little bit of research this morning. There's a place in Whately, I don't recall the name of it, but I have it bookmarked.
Nasami
native plants.
Nasami, yeah.
Yeah, those are rather expensive because they're already started. They might be good for if we do, if one of the parks has like a planting area. For the roadside, we're probably just going to do a seed mix that we can throw.
I just want to chip in. Brian knows of this, but it was before Mariah came on board. We sponsored a presentation by a guy named Tom Sullivan, who heads up a small company called Pollinators Welcome. He is from Turner's Falls, and he is the one that we hired to plant the pollinator gardens at the school, at the elementary school. But Mariah, for your information, he has a whole lot of, obviously a whole inventory of appropriate plants for this area and all the different conditions. So he's a real good resource, and he has participated in our projects up at the school. So just to let you know, Tom Sullivan, Pollinators Welcome. So
great.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll look him up. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you then. All right, if there are no other topics, are we okay? Mike, you had something, did you not?
Yeah, two real quick things. One was update on FERCog licenses or inspections. Mark took care of one we had on Rose Lane for a deck. And the other thing was Mariah has revised the the planned unit development maps and lessen the wetlands, especially around renovators and IP. Trying to get a tour set up someday so we can go see where the actual borders are going to be. If anybody on the Conservation Commission is interested,
Sure.
I'll let you know when that happens.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Good. Mark, yes.
I want to go ahead with coordinating between what volunteers we can find and Rob and anybody else that is involved in Poplar Mountain to do continued trail clearing and such. There's some down trees and other things that are more than he can handle, and he just needs 1 or 2 more people. I just want to go ahead and do that if I can find people to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to help him, Mark. I'm going to go Thursday and help him get the big tree out of the way. I think this week I'll help him get that big tree out of the way.
And will you guys be enough? Will you need anybody else besides the 2 of you?
I don't know. We'll see.
Mark, if you could get us a third, that would be appreciated. We're going to meet at 3:30 at the tree, but they could meet somewhere else. I could meet them somewhere else and go up. If we had 2 people moving, that's a lot of weight on Thursday.
And which trail is it on?
It's the north side of the Yellow Trail.
Okay.
You can't get here from there. There from here.
Or literally.
It's as far away as you can go.
Okay. And as I said, I don't know whether I can. It seems rather
Oops. Mark is frozen.
You cut out, Mark.
complex pulling people in, but just wanted to make sure that was straightforward to go ahead.
Okay. Any other topics? Seeing none and hearing none, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn. Anyone object to that? Otherwise, I'll take a vote. Aye.
Carrie Berg, aye.
Mike Schaefer, aye.
Mark Blatchley,
Okay.
aye.
Excellent. Thanks everybody for your patience and your input. I really appreciate it. This is turning into a good group, fun to work with. So excellent. We will hear from Mariah, and I'll get out a date for meeting on site. We'll have to post that, so hopefully we'll know pretty soon. But we'll have a kind of an additional meeting just to eyeball that site. Okay, thank you. I'll be in touch.
Thanks,
Bye now.
all.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.